Hello and welcome to Dungeon News, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. So Josh, today I've got me some delicious cranberry juice. You like cranberry juice?
Yeah, I've been known to partake of the cranberry juice. It's quite tart.
I've been known. Did you just say I've been known to partake in cranberry juice?
Yeah. Especially if it's been aged for a little bit and then becomes what's called alcoholic or a wine. Then I'm even more likely to have partaken.
Okay. Well, I have me some delicious cranberry juice with ice. Important distinction. With ice and some popcorn. And my popcorn, just FYI,
you should have told me. I would have gotten popcorn too. I have.
Dude, this is a sidetrack topic though, because it's not even close to part of my lukewarm open. But I've been obsessed with popcorn for the last 2 months, completely obsessed. Because I went to the grocery store and I found a couple things. One, did you know, which you may have, but did you know that they make butter oil for your popcorn? I didn't know that because I guess I'm just uneducated.
Okay, hold on. I don't think you know the greatest way to make popcorn ever, and it will change your life.
The greatest way
to make popcorn
will change my life.
There is I don't know what you'd call it, but it is a metal container that you put on the stove and you heat up. Now, in the handle of this, well, I don't remember cooking terms, but
is it like
this
the ones
device, it has a little crank, which kind of under in the actual container, there's there's a little metal bar that kind of keeps everything moving around. That's why you crank it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
But otherwise, the top of it just looks like one of those little bubblers that they have in
the spaceship glass.
No. It just looks like one of the the bubblers they have at the top of actual popcorn machines. But it has a handle and it's cooked on the stove. So what you do is you take there's a special coconut oil that you use and you cook it in that and you put flavacol in it, which is this insanely fine powdered salt, which is what they use in actual movie theaters for their popcorn.
Okay, because I've been doing something similar, I guess. So my mom has a fancy popcorn machine that has a little metal bar that spins, but it's electric, and you plug it in and it heats up, and then the thing just spins and it pops your popcorn, which is amazing because it's so delicious. But I didn't know because I just never partook in popcorn before this way. I usually would buy the movie theater bags that you can buy at the grocery store, which those are kind of gross, but they're kind of good.
It's hard to go back to once you start having the even better experience.
Oh, my mind has been opened. It's like I am enlightened now, once you have that popcorn, you can't go back. So I went to the grocery store because I've been enlightened, and I'm well, I got to get popcorn. And the popcorn aisle in my grocery store has delicious seasonings. It's got awesome oils. It's got all sorts of stuff to put in your popcorn. And I didn't know that existed. So I have been making popcorn. So I've got a garlic and Parmesan seasoning popcorn sitting in my lap and delicious cranberry juice. And you know why that is, Josh?
Why?
Take a gander.
Well, I'm assuming it's because you wanted to watch that horror movie that you were talking about beforehand, but you didn't really tell me the name of. You were just said, "Oh, we're going to talk about it in the show."
Yes, because it is movie time here on Dungeoneered, and it is a time that I don't take lightly because I am, one would say, a movie critic. Okay, I am pretty picky about my movies. I'm picky about anime. I'm picky about TV shows because books are just so much better. Hot take, I'm just going to say it. So I don't get entertained super easy by movies, but the movie I'm talking about, well, first, actually, we have to talk about horror movies because it is under the genre of horror. And you said you didn't like horror movies, and I have to know why because I'm confused.
I just don't care.
You just what do you mean? You don't care?
I just don't care.
Boring
about,
to you?
Yeah. Well, they're just. I don't want to watch them. I will say, as a kid, it's actually really funny. So as a kid, I watched The Mist, and I watched. It was a TV show that every episode, quote unquote episode, was a full on feature length film, and these feature length films were all horror films or sort of like if Twilight Zone was a little bit more horror than it was.
Okay. Okay.
And there was one about these creatures called Sand Kings. So the two main horror things that I saw as a kid was a little bit of It, this Sand Kings movie, and The Mist. Now,
So
when I
the
saw
mist is
those, I would wake up screaming at night. I wouldn't
yeah.
remember having a dream or being scared or having a nightmare. I just would wake up screaming.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it got to the point where I would wake up the next day and feel fine, but then my family would tell me, "What do you mean? Like you woke up screaming last night?" And I'd be like, "No, I didn't. I definitely didn't wake up at all." And my mom's like,
Oh
"We had a whole
gosh.
conversation. Like it was a whole thing." And I was like, "I don't
Okay.
remember ever waking up at night." So
Uh,
partially, it's like I don't want to. If my brain still does whatever the hell that is, I don't want to inflict that on other people as an adult.
okay. Well, you know what this reminds me of? Man, I'm getting way off topic, but you know what this reminds me of?
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying at my parents' house right now because I'm finishing up school and I'm trying to just get through my degree.
Yeah.
And upstairs, I'm staying upstairs. It's like my own little personal place. But upstairs, my mom has dolls
Oh
everywhere up here. My
no,
mom's a big doll yeah,
that
yeah,
sounds
yeah, yeah.
awful.
Yeah, it's horrifying, but she has dolls everywhere. So no matter where I go, where I sleep, if it's any guest room, I got dolls. Well, years and years ago, I woke up and I swear it was in the middle of the night. I swear there was like one, like the haunted girls that have like black hair hanging over their face and they're wearing like a nightgown. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Hmm.
classic horror scary girl. Anyways, I swear I saw one of those in the doorway one time. I
Oh no.
swear. I don't necessarily believe in paranormal activity, but that's another debate for another time. But I swear I saw one and it freaked me out. Freaked me out. And ever since I've not been able to like come up here and sleep without like slightly thinking about it. It's always kind of in the back of my mind. And this is so random, but last night I went to bed and it's been really hot upstairs
Hmm.
because heat rises, and so I have an air conditioner, but I forgot to turn it back on after turning it off for a school recording. And so I turned it off and I went to bed, and I swear I took off my pants to go to bed. Swear I took off my pants. I woke up and my pants were on. No idea how it happened. I woke up and I was like, I swear my pants are on. It's the
I
weirdest thing ever. But anyways,
Aaron, I'm so
that's nothing
confused
to
why we're
do.
having this conversation on the
Me
podcast
too.
right now.
Me
This is a
too.
before
But
con podcast
it is. It is.
conversation.
But I wanted to talk about my movie, which that I'm excited to watch, which is called Us. Have you seen Us? Have you heard me talk about Us before?
Um, could you explain it to me? Maybe I have.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the basic premise for Us is you are your own worst fear, which is kind of I don't know. I think it's a really fun concept. So essentially, the movie is about like each person in the world has its own kind of like haunted doppelganger who essentially, when they awaken, try to kill you. Is pretty much the idea behind it.
Huh. I don't think I've ever heard of this.
Yeah. So essentially, what it is a family goes to the beach and they stay at this like Airbnb house, and they wake up in the middle of the night and there's their whole family in their doppelganger form outside the house. Super creepy. I don't know how to describe it without like really explaining it and giving it a lot of spoilers because the movie's like full of spoilers. But essentially, by the end of the movie, you kind of realize that the theme of it is you're your own worst nightmare because these yourself is like trying to hunt you down and kill you essentially. Um, and so I wanted to talk about and kind of create something for a world where your own self is trying to kill you, whether that's a doppelganger, whether that's some sort of spell, something like that. I think would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you do that in a D&D setting?
Sorry, explain what you want one more time. Like just the last part a little bit.
So essentially, what I want to create is something where your own self, who knows you best,
Mm-hmm.
is trying to kill you or trying to. My first thought when I was thinking about this was like take control of your own life, so like replace you, because that's kind of what the idea is in the movie.
Well, I mean, doppelgangers exist,
I don't
and
even know how they're created in D&D. Are they even like a? Are they? What are those? I don't even know what they are in D&D.
doppelgangers are things that are monsters that have like abilities to read minds, um, and
Do they
can kind
shape
of like,
change?
yeah,
I
they
feel like I
shape
can
change.
picture them. They're like
Yeah,
that weird, like blue color.
you finished Baldur's
Yeah,
Gate 3,
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
They were all throughout the
Right,
last
but
city.
I don't know how
They look
they're.
like these tall, kind of grayish skinned alien like creatures. They're considered
How
monstrosities.
are they created in D&D? Do you know? Yeah, I was like, do you know how they're
There's a
created?
section on reproduction.
There's a
So
section on reproduction.
I'm just going to read it. Doppelgangers could only reproduce while in the form of a human with another human. They lacked reproductive organs in their true forms. Doppelgangers looked completely human at birth, though certain organs function differently. And they remain in a human form during childhood and
Oh
adolescence,
gosh.
during which time they were left to be raised by humans. This was sometimes compared to how cuckoos left their eggs in the nest of other birds. Upon reaching maturity, however, they changed and their minds were filled with an awareness of what they were,
Oh
which
gosh.
filled with an awareness of what they were is in quotes, and I don't know
Oh
why.
gosh.
Sometimes, however, a lone doppelganger lost itself and permanently assumes another identity. In such cases, where the doppelganger had also taken up a romantic partner, the offspring that resulted were known as half doppelgangers. Like doppelgangers, they were born in the form of their non doppelganger parent. However, that remained their normal form throughout their lives, and they had more limited capabilities compared to full doppelgangers. That's
This is
fascinating.
horrifying.
These people, their reproduction gets messed up by what you're mentally thinking. So if you're mentally like think that you are not a full doppelganger, if you mentally think that you're just a human, you'll create a half doppelganger instead of a full.
It
That's
is
wild.
so weird. Can you play as one in D&D? Isn't or is just that you I swear there's a playable race that's uh is it a doppelganger? Maybe it's just a shape changer or shapeshifter or shape something. I swear you can. Changeling, that's what it is. Changeling. You can
Mm.
play as a changeling.
Yeah.
But have you ever ran doppelgangers or something along those lines in a game before?
Not totally. I wanted to. I haven't totally like actually played with that yet. I won't I want to do it right when I want to do it. And I don't want to just like throw one in every campaign so they're always looking the other way. I want it to be a real monumental thing when it
Because I
happens.
don't know, I feel like there's so much potential for um
I have done. Someone was trying to reach across a magic barrier, and they were talking with somebody. Turns out they were talking with like an evil world version of themselves. So they were replaced by the evil world version of themselves when they
you
stretched
know
too
what I
far.
the thing for like doppelgangers, at least in traditional, I don't want to say media, but in stories that I really hate, and this has happened to me several times with different books, is I get really upset when the doppelganger assumes the main character's role and
Mm-hmm.
like does things bad on their behalf, and like the rest of the world hates it. I don't know why it bugs me. It just bugs me. Not in like a I don't like it in a story sense, but in a like it makes me angry. I don't know, I don't know why. I hate it's just kind of annoying. And I feel like if I was playing at a D&D table and my DM did that to me, I don't know how I would react if like I found out there was a doppelganger of my character ruining my character's like achievements or ruining their I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would kind of bug me.
I don't feel like I don't think that I would ever think that's cheap. I think that would be a fun thing to kind of like the idea of people that should love quote unquote love you are not happy with
Starting to
you
not to
and you
dislike
have
you.
to figure out why. That feels like a fun investigation to
Yeah,
me.
I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't know. I guess it doesn't change your character, but I have a vision of my character that it would kind of bug me. But I guess at the same time, it is a pretty intriguing story of like you're the people that are supposed to love you or the people that are supposed to care about you are all of a sudden like turning on you or you saying that you've done horrible things or whatever. Could be or even getting arrested. But I think what would be even more interesting, just along the lines of us, is having like a campaign based off of, I mean, of like doppelgangers or something or a monster that replaces people with a version of themselves that they can use and manipulate would be really horrifying and really creepy.
Have you heard of the
I
false Hydra?
have, I have before, but I've never really looked into it.
It's fun.
Is that the
It's very
is that
fun.
the creature that like
What it does is it eats people. It's a creature that eats
yeah,
people. And when it eats people, everyone forgets that they exist.
that is horrifying.
So you'll just see an empty house and you're like, oh, that house has always been empty. But like if you went in it, it would be like, no, it looks like somebody dusted just yesterday. But you're like, nobody's lived here ever. I can't remember anybody ever living here. Well, I can't imagine who would have dusted
Is
in
that
here.
the
So you just find these weird little
is
inconsistencies.
that the weird Hydra that's like born? I think I ran one in our campaign or a version of one in our campaign. It was found in the well, and you guys found an egg of it or whatever in the well, and you took it to your
I think that's similar. Yeah, I think that was a similar thing.
Are they? I have an image in my mind of like a Hydra, but it's like a white
The way
flesh
I've always
with, like,
seen it drawn,
heads, like human weird corrupted heads.
kind of. The way I've always seen it drawn, which isn't like I don't know how they got this. They draw it exactly like a monster from one of the Legend of Zelda games. I don't think that's what that monster did in that game, but that is what everybody draws a false Hydra as now.
I mean that concept is horrifying. Does it like live in cities? What's its like? What's its goal?
I think it doesn't want to live somewhere that's too populated because it doesn't want to get caught.
Are they?
It's trying to eat is what it's
Are they
trying
even
to do.
a real thing in D&D? I don't see any information on them, or is it like older?
No. It's not a real
okay.
thing.
Okay.
It's like a thing that like it was like a creepypasta or whatever that people just loved the idea of.
Yeah.
I just posted an image of what it looks like. It's like it's like a solid slug-like base that has a bunch of hands coming out of it.
So creepy.
Is how I've always
I
seen it
love that
drawn.
kind of concept. I love horror, as you know, in D&D games because all my campaigns.
Yeah, they draw it like the dead hand is what I think they called it in Legend of Zelda. That's what whenever I look up false Hydra, I get all these dead hand images.
That's the first thing that pops up.
Well,
That's funny.
I am going to cut us
let's do
off
it.
here. We really rambled into weird areas. We're in this lukewarm open at one point talking about the proper popcorn technique.
In my pants.
I will say in Discord, I have found the aluminum stovetop popcorn popper and Flavacol and the colored coconut oil that if you use these three things, you will create the greatest popcorn you have
You
ever
are
had.
ready to start your own movie theater and
Cult?
have your own cult. That's not where I'm
Cult for this this amazing popcorn. Yeah, no, it's that good. I agree.
Cult of popcorn. Yeah.
So let's get into the topic. I had some ideas growing in my brain for like our world this season and like weird topics or fun topics that we should do that I've kind of put on the back burner that would like work to talk about the topics I wanted to talk about. So this week we'll be talking about aspects of a time in the Forgotten Realms called the Spell Plague. We're going to be talking about the two items, Spellscars and Plaguechanged. The background needed for this is a brief description of, well, what is the Spell Plague? The Spell Plague was a time where, once again, magic went crazy and died out in the Forgotten Realms. This time, it was brought about by the god Cyric and Shar. Shar aided Cyric in getting to Mystra, and Cyric actually did the killing. Now, Shar wanted to take over the weave of magic and replace it with the Shadow Weave. But upon the death of Mystra, it did not go as planned, and the weave fell apart so completely that she was unable to save it. And in the end, her Shadow Weave was so intricately woven into the original weave that as soon as the original weave died, she lost everything. Her weave, the original weave, and her Shadow Weave. Now, Cyric found what remained of arcane energy and defiled it with his madness, creating a mutated evil form of magical energy that took the form of blue flames, giving the spell plague its second name, the Blue Breath of
Oh
Change.
gosh.
Now, these blue flames and spots of magical chaos that began to appear all over the world would affect those touched by it in different ways. One of those ways is by creating Plaguechanged. This is when the contact with the energy was so great that it fully warped and changed the creature. These creatures were given the abilities that shared a similarity with the spell plague's energy. Either the ability was something fire-based or something that warped or deformed reality. Sometimes they even got both types of ability. These spell plague energies affected everything it touched, from earth to energy to even spirits and souls. This means that when an affected creature this means when it affects a creature, if affected, it affected every aspect of that creature, from their bones, their skin, their flesh, to their soul.
Does it kill them eventually?
No, it turns them into aberrations of what they once were. I'm going to post an image of a Plaguechanged in our Discord. The image is that of a, rat that has all these pustules and boils and
So it can change all sorts of stuff.
Oh no, yeah, anything that any creature that it touches could be heavily affected by it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, not a great sight. Now these changes could be completely different based on the creature and situation of their infection. These transformations were absolutely horrific and violent, causing creatures affected to go insane in the process.
You know what this reminds me of?
What?
Well, maybe it doesn't. Just this picture, it reminds me of. Have you seen Demon Slayer, the anime?
Not excessively so. I watched the first season and then was unhappy with the ending, so I didn't keep watching.
Ooh, that's a hot take for a lot of people.
Well, the biggest it's the anime's fine. I just hate the. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on a little small tangent here. At the very end of the first season, all of the Demon Corps are just absolute dicks to the main character.
Yeah,
just
they are.
horrible.
It's true.
The worst of the worst. And I'm like, I understand that the next few seasons, you want us to love these people. These are the crew for the next few seasons.
Yeah.
I don't like them, and I do not care to get to like them. I'm gonna stop watching now. So I ended
guess
after
there's
the first
reasoning,
season.
but yeah, I guess there's reasoning behind why they don't like him, but because he has a demon with him, so
Yes,
I
but
guess that's
he's
understandable.
kept her under control the whole time. There's extenuating circumstances, and they are being
Yeah.
excessively dicks about it, and
Well,
I just
I don't
didn't
know.
care for it.
For me, Demon Slayer is it's decent. It's all right. It's beautiful animation, and
Oh, it's insanely good animation.
Yeah.
The fight scenes and stuff are great.
it's amazing. But the story
And
is
the writing up
lackluster for
until
me,
that point
but-
was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the story's kind of lackluster. It's a pretty shallow anime, but in terms of
We're gonna get
character
hate
development.
comments for that one.
yeah, I am gonna get hate comments for it, but I mean it's not like Haikyuu, volleyball anime, deep characters and stories.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's not as emotionally gonna wreck you like my favorite, Your Lie in April.
Ooh, yes, that is probably it's one of my favorite. It's probably
one of my
favorite anime.
faves. It is my fave. Your Lie
I
in
have
April.
recently
Oh,
become
so good.
obsessed with My Hero Academia. I love that.
Such a
anime.
good
That anime is-
show.
That anime is so.
I'm so excited that it's a show that has a vision and is okay, once we're done with that vision, we're ending the show.
Have you seen the most recent season?
I've watched the
Oh
whole
my-
thing. Yeah, the whole thing. So good. We
it
can't
is
talk about it
so
until
good.
let's wait till after the
Ugh.
recording and we'll talk about
I
it.
know. Okay. I should do a lukewarm open about what power we should have if we were My Hero Academia characters. But
Why do you keep doing these openers that have nothing to do with with world building at all?
I know. Sorry.
Oh
I'm
my
distracted.
goodness.
Okay.
But I will say, if you asked what power I would have in Naruto, I already have an answer for you.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, now we have to hear it. You can't just leave us hanging.
I would be a summoner. I would just literally make a pact with every single summoning group, monster, everything.
Wow. You know,
And I would
my
find a way to get reserves of mana, of the chakra, that I could keep casting multiple of
see
these massive
you're
monsters.
you're just telling me you would sell your soul to whoever gave you the highest price. Is pretty much what you're saying.
No, I would have each of them. I would have a snake, I'd have the slug, I'd have the frogs, I'd have the dogs, I'd
Just
have
have it
all of them.
all.
All of them.
I have always been obsessed, and I don't know what the official name of it is, but it's actually one of my favorite concepts in that I've wanted to play as a D&D character. I just haven't figured out how to do it. Is the puppet masters in
Yes,
Naruto?
those are awesome. Those are awesome.
Ah, they're
Those are
so
absolutely phenomenal. They're
I
so
know,
cool.
and that's what-
And when they meet the Akatsuki guy that is
Yes.
one of them, and he has to
Yes.
fight, and he fights against the old lady who's like
Yep.
super. She's been
Yep.
doing that her whole life. I think he's like her apprentice or something.
Yep, he is
At one
yeah,
point.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good
They're
moment.
They're so fun. I
That
think
is
that's
the
such a
thing that
cool-
made Naruto like so far above everything else, is that the powers were incredibly interesting, and they
They're very
use them in fun,
unique.
interesting ways.
Yeah, they're definitely
Which is why
unique, for
which is why
sure.
my hero is also pretty
Yeah.
great right now, is for the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like Naruto, but I'm not a huge fan of like the really major big animes in general. Like I don't even like Attack on Titan that much. I mean, it's okay, but anyways, that is a whole
Yeah, I
nother
haven't
can
watched
of worms though.
I haven't watched
We are
in a
gonna-
while.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're really going on a long. I gotta get back
that
to
take-
talking.
Yeah, true, but that take is a really hot take where I just said I don't really like Attack on Titan that much. That's where
No,
got
I don't
hate
think that's
comments.
that big of a take, especially since they stretched out this last season.
Yeah, it's like
Two.
final part 1, final part 2, final part 3.
I mean, it makes sense if you're making that bag. More power to you.
Yeah, I
You
guess
go
so.
for it, my guy. The creator,
Guess
go
so.
for it. I no hate for you getting more of
I
that
guess
bag.
so.
You deserve it.
Oh.
Now, I mentioned a second topic when I was saying the intro. The second topic was Spellscars. These are similar to Plaguechanged in that they happen when someone is touched by the blue flames of the spell plague. The difference is time affected. Spellscars form from a more limited amount of exposure to the flames, where you're not fully changed into a Plaguechanged, but you are still affected by these flames. Spellscars grant magical powers to the afflicted. Now, Spellscars don't come from a good source. It is a corrupted and evil energy which is known to mutate, and anyone granted a Spellscar from this energy also receives its mutating features as well.
Are these like powers that hinder you, or they're powers that benefit you?
They're like
or
magical
all the
powers.
above?
They're magical
So-
powers of some sort. Now, I will say
blow up
that
stuff?
it one of the things about it is that it only augments your skill set. So, if you're a barbarian, you're not going to get one that allows you to cast a spell. It's going to make you better at being a barbarian. But, as I'm saying here, you can't escape its mutating energy. So, you might get the Spellscar, but you also receive some form of physical abnormality or injury. Now, these could be followed by the same mental mutation that affect Plaguechanged as well. So it could be a physical malady, or it could be a mental change of some sort.
So like you can now blow stuff up, but your right arm doesn't work or whatever.
Yeah, or it's like withered and weaker than everything
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, Spellscars are normally invisible, but they become visible upon use. And they would be characterized by a glow or flame of blue, matching that spell plague energy. There's a good quote in the Spellscar Forgotten Realms write up on it from a Sunstein Urbeth that says, "Yeah, I have a Spellscar. First time I manifested, my leg shriveled up. The thing is a curse, not a blessing, like some try to tell you." The reaction to having or gaining a Spellscar are vast, from people like Sunstein, who is like, "I hate this. This is the worst thing that ever happens to me. I will never use it or try to never use it." And there's others who are like, "This is a magic power that I want to train
Exploit
up
and use.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exploit,
what I do.
and so they become what's called students of the plague, where they train themselves in this Spellscar usage.
That is such a cool concept. Is there a limit in terms of not how much you can use it, but do they know how much you can be exposed to the spell plague
No,
before you turn? So they try to get as much power as possible.
well, that's the thing. Like
Just different for
I think
everybody.
everybody it's different, so you can't be like, oh, everybody can last 10 minutes. It's like this dude lasted 10 minutes, but this dude only lasted one. So it's hard to know before you become like too affected in a problem. But you only get the base level of powers when you get spell scarred. You have to train it if you want
Yeah, oh
it to be
yeah.
better. Now the problem is the reason why you don't want to like go out and get a spell scar is because there are some spell scars that their powers get activated without your control. So you're just
What do
walking through a city, then suddenly, boom, your spell scar activates.
or you turn into a potted plant.
So there are benefits and negatives to these spell scars, and it's hard to know what you're gonna get if you get one. The powers
Man.
granted by spell scars start with the ability to sense spells plague energy. So
Oh,
once you
that's
get it, you'll
lame.
be able to sense when like Plaguechanged or any of these like monsters and creatures affected by the spell plague are near.
I don't I don't want that. Give me unlimited power.
It even
That's what I want.
extends the lives of those infected by a few decades, sometimes even having the ability to pass that trait down to their children. But the other abilities granted, as I said earlier, were all built in a way compatible with the strengths of the individual. The spell scars also let off like a pheromone almost that
Ew.
draws in other spell scars and plague changed individuals. So
Kind of
you
reminds me
kind
of
of draw monsters that are also changed by this spell plague. Now, there's more I could go into about the students of the plague or whatnot, but I think that's enough for now. Now, my idea was that maybe if you helped in one of these like ascension rituals, maybe whether you failed or succeeded, or maybe only when you failed, you might be infected with some sort of plague scar thing like this.
Okay.
Or
So
maybe even fully changed, fully plague changed. But
so right now, what right now do we have even a concrete idea of exactly what we want when you fail one of these rituals? We talked about you
no.
die, but
Yes. We die. The person trying to ascend dies. We know that for sure.
it could be interesting if I don't know, like because we have the character, the big bad evil guy or the big bad evil girl's uh, brother, like half succeeded, half failed. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, if somebody fails and they die, you kind of want this like plague to occur, or like there's some sort of scar or remnant that exists.
Yeah, like maybe like getting so close to that energy that people are not supposed to engage with leaves a physical
Well,
thing.
here's here's the first place my mind went. We talked a little bit about it, I think, last week, but
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this monster is consuming like whatever the failed essence is of these rituals, right?
Yeah.
There's something that I've wanted to do pretty not pretty badly, but I've wanted to do it for this world because I think it'd be really interesting is to make like a cult and they go around and try and consume the like failed ritual, or they purposefully try and find pillars and fail these rituals so that they can consume this dust. Like they don't necessarily even know how to complete a ritual, but they just want to fail them so that they can like complete and or so they can consume and eat this dust, and it's like a whole religious cult. And the more of it you've consumed, the higher up the chain of command you can become. um, but it's
What
a
if they don't know how it's created?
interesting.
What if
What
they just
elaborate?
have found the dust?
And so they just
They
try
don't
and
know about
searching for it.
ascension. They don't know about all that. They just know that this dust is, and maybe it's even like addictive.
Well, that was my thought.
So
That was my thought.
between each like someone else's attempt, these people all start to go with withdrawal. So it's like a cult of drug addicts that have their drug is so rare and they don't know how to create it.
So yeah, that was my thought, and I actually think it'd be fun to, even like mechanics wise, if like a player decides to, they can get special abilities and powers from consuming it. But if
Mm-hmm.
they consume too much, there's negatives and bad stuff. I think it'd be really fun.
I
Um,
think I think always make consumption of it good.
oh yeah, for sure.
It's the withdrawal that's
Oh yeah,
horrible. And
yeah.
I think what I would want to do for a campaign of this, one, make this just be a bad guy that they meet at some of these pillars. But as the campaign goes on, I would make them more ravenous and more like crazy as they are like more and more starved of this.
Do you? There's a couple questions that I have actually about this now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if we go with the idea of they don't know how to make it or how to create it, um,
Because I don't think
first,
Ascension is, at least I think the gods as we have created them so far would want to keep that as hidden as possible.
oh, absolutely agreed. Yeah, absolutely agreed. No, yeah, I think for sure that I like the idea of this cult not knowing how to create the dust. I like that. Um, I think my question becomes is one, how do they find it? Two, uh, is this cult in any way, or does it in any way, start to try and follow whatever our Titan friend is who consumes it also?
I could definitely
Like,
see that happening at some point, for sure. Where they
because I
start to
think that,
notice that around their source, like what around everything that they like, whenever they find this dust, they see this large hole and creatures' footsteps that were just there. So they're like, hey, maybe we just start following this. I definitely see
yeah,
that happening.
there's also a part of me that thinks it would be interesting if this creature also produces some as well. So
Mm-hmm.
like
I could see that.
they, yeah, so like they follow it, not in a religious sense, but like in a real, like, I walk and follow it. They try and
Mm-hmm.
find where it's at. I think that could be a really interesting.
I think it would be really fun for like some sort of final confrontation of this big bad evil guy, and this big titan is being attacked by this like crazy cult that you have seen multiple times throughout the campaign, and they're not really on your side, but technically they are fighting the people that you are fighting in this final moment, so technically they are on your side,
Yeah,
but they're kind of
like
crazy, and
like they
they're
want to consume the corpse of this Titan
yes,
figure if it
yes,
dies.
so they're technically on your side, but like they have never been on your side this whole campaign. They've been your enemy so far.
Yeah, I think how I would probably run it is I'd probably introduce them very early as because I think I talked about it a little bit too in the other episodes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably introduce them as one of like the first enemies that you fight. Just like
Yeah.
if you wipe out their cult completely and you kill them all, they don't exist anymore. But if they get away or they survive, you can re-encounter them in numerous different places, including possibly even you know uh, final fight, or you can even use them to try and track and
See, I
find
was
this creature.
imagining them bigger than that.
I I was How big were you thinking? Because I'm not
Like not
exactly sure how big I was
excessively
thinking.
so. Not excessively so, but like probably a good 100 of them or so. So like an early level campaign, like early level party could not wipe them all out.
I was thinking similar numbers, but I was thinking like if the party chose to pursue and find the remaining camps or whatever of these people
Mm.
and kill them.
Okay, you're saying that they could choose to hunt them down. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get that. I see that.
yeah. Maybe not like in the first encounter they wouldn't be. I don't think they'd be able to wipe all of them because I think the people who consume a lot of this dust have cool powers. To
Yeah.
be honest, like I think they, like I first I would want to be a bad person and tempt the party with it. Absolutely, I would want somebody to use it, like for sure. I just
Question.
yes,
So what I was imagining originally was like people that are guarding a pillar, or at least their society is around a pillar. They've been harassed by this like cult. So they asked this adventuring party that was in town, like, "Hey, could you go and like tell them to stop?" And then they go to that cult and they talk to them, and the cult's like, "Hey, well, like we're just looking for this stuff, and we think there might be some in this city, and they're like, here, try it. Like they would offer the party a sample.
So, yeah, there's a couple ways that I would see the party meeting this group of individuals. First is, which I talked about last episode, is um, like a really early quest where you start the game in a survival scenario. So whether that's like an airship crash or their boat sinks and they land on the shore or their caravan's raided or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, that could be interesting too. What if? Oh man. Well, what if you'd start them on a caravan with this dust in the caravan because it's used for something, like the big bad evil guy or something is using it, and they get attacked by these
Mm-hmm.
ravenous cult members who are trying to get whatever is in this caravan.
Yeah.
So, but either way, if they're in a survival situation, I was first thought is they witness a city be attacked by this titan. So the ground opens up and these creatures run out and attack this city. And they happen to see the cult there trying to follow or pursue or get something. So that was the first way, but I don't know if I actually like that when I think about it. Um,
I
I
liked your
like
caravan idea.
I do too. Yeah.
I honestly would have it be the caravan idea, but the cult is not trying to kill anyone.
Yeah.
Like the cult actively at this point, like if quote unquote if they win or whatever this fight, no one dies. Their whole thing is we want to like maybe it was just like robbery where they just like hold them out at sword point and are like, hey, give us that stuff and nobody has to die type thing. And then like if they do fight and if they win or lose whatever, if they win then they make sure it's very obvious, hey, we just want to take this or we'll leave. And
Yeah.
then
I'm
maybe
I'm
later on they become more ravenous and they see like, hey, you let us live in the beginning. Like that is what they will see, the visual change of these people.
Yeah, I think so. I'm more of the mind of they would definitely give an option, but I think they would also be totally willing to, if they don't get it, they'd be willing to fight and kill for it. I think, especially as they get more ravenous, as you were
Well, I
talking
think that
about.
yeah, I think they would fight for it, but I think at this point they would like try to take prisoners. Is what I'm saying. So like what when PCs say I declared non-lethal damage like that.
Oh, and like knock people out instead of
Yeah,
kill them.
yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah,
they're still gonna knock you down to one hit point, but their goal is not to kill you.
yeah. I don't know. I'd be fine probably with either, to be honest. But I think I before I even made this combat or this situation, I'd have to know like what does this stuff do to you. First of all, what does
Mm-hmm.
it look like? So, are these people like eating
I like gold dust. I like the idea of it being like a
like a
golden,
powder?
radiant dust that almost glows.
My thought was gonna be more like our good friend Rat in the Discord here. This picture of the plague rat,
Yeah,
where like they're consuming like chunks of flesh
flesh.
because or chunks of anything that got into contact with whatever this dust is, right? So like this stuff, it essentially just transforms whatever it gets in contact with, and they're consuming that. So that could be a person, that could be a plant, that could be anything, right? So, but I think my idea would be is that there's like a refined version of it, like a pure essence, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
would probably be like I don't know, like a liquid or something, but like a pure essence that one they're trying to learn how to extract from whatever creature comes in contact with it. So they also do weird experiments on anything just to try and extract whatever this resource is. And then uh, you know, two, I think if you get that more refined resource, it has different effects or better effects or worse effects depending.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's kind of how I see it, or at least they're trying to get it that way. That would be my thought. Um, but because I don't know, I just want to stay away from like it's cocaine, like
Mm-hmm.
that's I don't know. I just that's what I'd want to stay away from
Yeah.
and make it something different than that. And I think the idea of like to me it makes sense because you have to fail a ritual first to have this product, and so I think it would like impact the body and maybe stuff around it, right, where you do the ritual. So if you did the ritual in your house, you have like four family members and they all, you know, get impacted by whatever this stuff is. And maybe I mean, maybe if you're close enough to the ritual, even you don't die, but you get like a taste of it or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's how this cult could even start, is, the founding member or whatever was close enough to a ritual. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I want like these rituals happening all the time, like I don't really want like, oh, it's another day, another ritual that failed, like
Yeah. Yeah, I
thoughts?
definitely don't think they happen all the time. I definitely don't think that it is um, common knowledge how to do them. I
No,
like
for
the
sure.
idea of the only person who knows, at least has any idea about some of these rituals, is the leader of this cult, and they didn't even realize that was what caused it. They just realized that they got affected by it and began feeling this hunger. Um,
Yeah, I think for me, this leader of the cult, I think it'd be a fun idea for them to know, or at least be trying
yeah,
to figure it out.
no, I
Um,
totally agree. And I think they're like an old, I don't know if man or woman, but like they're an older individual that has that is like it's hard to give like a number of be like, oh, they're this old, because it's like I don't know if they're an elf or whatever, but like I think they've seen a lot of things and they are like, I don't think they were a major
Honestly,
part of this ritual when it happened.
no,
They were just
agreed.
like there, so they didn't know the full rundown of what was
My
happening.
my first thought, the thing that I picture in my mind when I see this leader, um, and to try and connect it to the rest of our little story we have going on, is like a grizzled veteran bodyguard to whoever tried to do the ritual,
Interesting.
like, and they failed the ritual, and as a byproduct this person was exposed to this failure, and
I was thinking
yeah,
like
like,
a young squire at the time, or like it
no,
was
I was
somebody who was so like who was inexperienced and young and wasn't let in on what was happening as much because of their age.
Yeah, I picture it more of like a cruel, grizzled. I mean, right now they're very, very disturbed looking, probably because of the dust they've consumed,
Mm-hmm.
the essence they've consumed. But I would picture them as like a grizzled veteran who was hired by whoever did this ritual, like the big bad evil guy or whoever did this. Um, and it had a negative impact on them and turned them into the way they are. Um, I don't think they were part of like the adventuring party or anything, but just like maybe a part of a like there was an old mercenary company that all got wiped out or whatever in this ritual,
Mm-hmm.
and you could find traces of, um, them hiring this mercenary company for
Okay,
help
I
guiding
think I
them.
got it.
Okay,
Part of a mercenary company that was hired to help this scholar or whatever that was
yep,
trying to ascend.
yep,
Scholar didn't tell them what was going on or what, they just needed to protect them.
agreed. Yep.
What happens is it fails. This dust covers all the, like, I'll say like 14 members of the mercenary crew. None of them die. But there's a cave in the tunnel that they are in. In the end, this individual, this guy who's now the leader of this cult, had to they fought each other and had to eat the other members of the mercenary group in their attempt to like dig out. It took that
Oh
long.
gosh. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So he
Oh gosh.
consumed this as, because you wanted it to be like meat and other things that were affected by this dust. He ate his affected companions. So he has consumed, one, a lot of this dust, but also gained a lot of
I
power
wanna
from it.
I wanna take it to the next step
Yeah.
and make it maybe a little less grotesque, but still keep it pretty terrible. I love the idea of they're around this failed ritual, so everything's the same. They're around the failed ritual.
Mm-hmm.
It There's a big cave-in collapse, right? The original 14 people are stuck, and they're stuck with their supply wagon or whatever, but their supply wagon is completely tainted. They have no idea. So as they dig themselves out, they all begin to eat these rations and drink the water that's all impacted with it. And as they do, um, slowly but surely they become poisoned and eventually start going insane. And one by one, the members kill each other as part of consuming whatever this poisoned material is. And the last one standing, or I even like the idea of like there's 5 leaders of the cult, and it's the 5 remaining members of this mercenary company that survived.
I would
Right?
keep it less than that.
I would too, probably.
2 or
But
3.
yeah, and like they each have their own little camp or whatever. Would be a kind of an interesting story. But either way, I think it'd be really interesting. That's how it started, and then they all slowly began one by one, depending on their tolerance and their willpower. So um, they all began to go insane, and they had to fight and kill each other. Like wake up in the middle of the night as the guy next to you is trying to strangle you and kill you. Like going insane after uh, consumed too much contaminated material. Um, maybe there's signs before that
Mm-hmm.
kind of trigger it, but I think that's a really, I don't know, grotesque. And I do like the idea of they eventually had to eat each other, which is just horrible though. So I don't know. I feel like that happens a lot in D&D.
You are
So
our D&D because of how our brain.
I
So
know
it's not
exactly. So now
everybody's.
I'm like,
It's
well, what if they just had to kill each other because their normal stuff was contaminated, and they left
yeah.
their. But I feel like if you got a here goes my mind though. But if you got contaminated with this stuff and you got like addicted to it, I guess you'd probably take the bodies with you because it has that stuff in it too, right? And you'd
Mm-hmm.
want to consume it. So I mean, it would make sense if it contaminates any living
Yeah,
anything.
that's why I think like they waited till they got a little ravenous and they like needed to
Yep.
consume something, so they did inevitably eat
Yep.
their other companions.
Yeah. And then they started this cult. So I want to dive in before we, as we wrap things up.
Yeah.
I want to dive into what it does. I want to give some powers. I want to see like what are we thinking this stuff does? Like, are we talking mind blasts? Are we talking like what are we thinking here? Ability to mind read? What are we? What's the thoughts? I don't know what I want. I really
I
don't.
think one
What?
that I liked about this spell scar that I want to keep is the ability to sense that energy
Mm,
and that stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's how
I
they
like that as
find
a
it now
first. Yep.
because they have these senses.
So
Um,
I want that to be a first, but I want it to do something a little bit more. And my
oh no,
thought
I
is
definitely
like,
was. Yeah.
oh well, go ahead. My
No,
bad.
keep go. You're good.
My thought was like it increases their dark vision by a little bit or something as well. So you have like a little bit more than just like, oh, I can sense stuff. So they can, like if a player is doing this, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something just simple like that um, could be very interesting. But I do like because once you consume it, you have to be able to like find it, right? So I like the idea of being able to see it or sense it or feel it around wherever it is. So I think that's a good one. Any ideas for how it progresses?
See, I was thinking where you kind of went for like dark vision. I was thinking like because this is energy that is created during like God creation, it's like a radiant holy energy. So I was thinking like maybe like the divine strike of clerics where like they
Mm.
get this like extra oomph behind their normal attacks,
Okay, so
but I don't. I think that would be like a later or maybe an eventual or like farther down the road type
yeah,
benefit.
yeah, okay. So a couple things. I think first, I think it's the opposite of holy energy because it's the failed energy. So
Mm.
I think it should be more of like necrotic or like the reverse of it, right? Because it's the failed energy of it, which I think just adds to the aesthetic and the grossness of it, which I
Then
like.
I think if that's what you want, then I think the number one thing I would give them, which I don't think is that powerful of ability, but is really fun when it happens, is that vampiric ability that some
Yeah.
weapons can have when you roll a 20.
Yep.
You take like you they take an extra like 15 damage or something, and then you heal that much.
Yeah. So this is a flashback to Caecilius in campaign. Caecilius had the reason he had his arm wrapped up all the time is because his right arm was a skeleton arm. It was like decayed from trying to be revived, and it partially failed, so half of his body was still dead. But the person who revived him um, kind of did like a necrotic ritual to maintain like his half his body was a skeleton,
Mm-hmm.
And with that came the ability of like inflict wounds and stuff. So I got like certain spells that I could use. Um, so he could like grab someone with his right arm and like just pump the necrotic energy into them. So I think stuff like that would be really fun to
Mm-hmm.
do. Where like if you use this as an attack action, you do 3d10 necrotic damage, right? Like something like that would be really fun. Like you said, vampiric touch, where you can just like drain the life force of somebody would be cool. Um,
You should look at Discord for a second.
the man with the skeleton arms.
He was
It's,
making fun of
it's,
how I have weird music, and then he talks about his character who had one skeleton arm, so
yeah,
I had to post this song called "The Man with the Skeleton Arms."
yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful drawing too. It's a little
Yeah,
stick man, horseman. Just
it's a little
beautiful.
horseman standing up and a man with a saddle on his
Saddle
back.
on. But I think those would be some fun abilities.
Yeah, I think that other one was
Here's
super powerful, but I think I would dull that for a little bit, but
well, I
not
mean,
bad.
first level, first level inflict wounds is 3d10. So, um, so
I know, but
uh,
you said infinite. You said like you just
oh
all.
no, it's definitely not infinite. I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could just do it every once in a while. I'd have to
Mm.
wait a long rest before I could do it again or whatever. But, and there's one thing that I wanted to play around with too, which could be interesting. Is what if it like I don't know. What if this is weird? What if you like, let's say a spider, a giant spider, consumed some of this material and became corrupted, and the person consumed that spider. Could it be cool if you started to like transform into like partially into something you consumed? So, let's say scorpion, you grew like a cool scorpion stinger tail, like a corrupted scorpion stinger tail that could like stab people. Um, a tree, you got like a bark skin, like that would grow over your body. Um,
Wait, so are you saying that you think that they might be based on what type
yeah,
of like pillar that was came from?
or what thing what thing you consumed. So if you consumed a, whatever, a tiger, you'd get claws. Like you could get like these weird deformed hands and claws, that you'd scratch people with. Um, you know,
Hmm.
if you ate a bat, you'd have weird ears. I don't know, but I think it could be really interesting, or like a blind
That
sense.
could be, and it would allow the party to have a real basic understanding of what they would be getting into before they eat something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a bat. Okay, it might be one of these bat traits. I need to.
Yeah. Well, I think it could also be fun just because it would be unique. Like if the whole party decided to go cult route, they could all have different unique powers and not all be the same, which could be fun.
Yeah.
Depending on what player wanted what, it could be kind of cool. But then you could make, I mean, you could make it really weird if you wanted. You could have like some guy with a cool scorpion tail, and then like the cult would purposefully try and like infect things that they wanted to try and gain the power of. So like literally with the scorpion tail, like a guy purposefully tried to corrupt a scorpion or like a giant scorpion so he could gain the scorpion tail. Um,
Hmm.
could be interesting, I think, as well. Could be something to play around with, but it also might be over the top. So, but it could be something to play around with.
It is interesting, though. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, but I think ultimately I like it's this weird corrupting magic, and you consume whatever the magic corrupted, and when you consume that, you also become corrupted in a certain way, and it's like an addicting substance that you have to go and
Hmm.
find and consume. And the more you consume, the stronger you become, but also the more ravenous and addicted you become. And I picture it as there's like a threshold of, intellect versus ravenous, that if you cross that line, you can literally just become insane, right? Like, I think and I even picture the Colts having like cages of people who have turned insane that they're just gonna consume later. It's so creepy though. It's so like people who have consumed too much now are held by the cult because the cult still wants to consume their corrupted flesh. It'd be horrifying. Just disgusting. Anyways. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
well thought out. Well, yeah, I think this is good. I like this.
Cool.
Anything else you want to add?
I think that's pretty good.
Cool.
Do you think this Titan creature, when it like invades, does it spread it as well, or is it just?
I think kind of, but I don't think it's like I think the majority, like 99% of people, if they see a creature walk by and leave a trail of dust on food and whatnot, would wash it off or throw it away
Yeah, I picture it
before
more like a
consuming it.
mold.
So I don't think the majority of people are gonna like fall under this if it goes into your city.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want this to be like a, everybody become, I mean, I guess it could be everybody becomes addicted to this substance. I guess if it got out of control, it probably could, but I don't know how you would do that. But I think I mean, you could even make a monster from this city that, or maybe that's how the people become this forged thing that we were talking about. It's like they have these creatures that like inject you with the maximum amount of corrupted energy and you just go insane. I think that could be a possibility. So like everybody who's all those creatures and people that it abducts, they have like I don't know, like mind flare esque holding chambers, and then they with like these vats of corrupted energy, and they just like stab you and
Who is
inject you
doing
with it.
this?
The people on the Titan, because we have the city
I
that
want to
rises.
veto this. I want to veto this.
You want to veto it?
I want to veto this because I like the idea of there is either through like smart choices of the party or just through a crazy random events, you can get to a point where you can have this cult who has been enemies of yours attack your other enemy because they want the flesh of this creature, and I don't want them to have any sort of control, mind flayery control or whatever
I don't think they
over
have.
other corrupted, because they're using these vats, so they got to have some sort of power
I
over
think
these
when
creatures.
I think when the people become forged, they don't have control of them anymore, and they can only influence where they go, and that could be with the consuming dust, where they like maybe this creature can release like a pheromone where they follow it to the next city or
Mm-hmm.
where they need it to go. That would be my. I don't think they'd have any control of them. That would be my only thing there. But and this cult would, in my opinion, would still try and destroy this monster to consume it because it's the originator of the, you know, has the most amount of supply on it. I guess you could say, and you could even play around with the idea of it, the cult fracturing or whatever, and some want to go become forged or whatever to experience the ultimate amount of this essence. But I don't know, just an idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we'll call it there.
Yeah.
Episode 108 of Dungeoneered. Well, thank you all for listening. And if you would like to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for topics, lukewarm opens, or recipes. It really helps if you like the show to write a review about it, let other people know the show is actually pretty good, and it really helps gain more viewers by showing that our viewers engage with the show in more ways than just one. Anything else you want to add, Aaron?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch.
I win.
See you next
I
time.
outlasted you. Bye, everybody.
You did good.